Jenny.
Jenny is the Vice President of Administration for the Susan B. Anthony List. She is a graduate of Framingham State University in Framingham, Massachusetts. Jennifer manages and executes the financial and legal policies of the organization. She is committed to the pro-life cause and is thrilled to be able to serve Susan B. Anthony List in this capacity. Prior to joining Susan B. Anthony List in 2008, she worked as a staff accountant for a CPA firm in Northern Virginia. Jennifer and her husband Chris reside in Northern Virginia with their 7 children, one who is here. Francis, you want to wave to everybody? Welcome.
She looks like she was
Thank
caught
you so
doing
much.
something. You know, So I actually don't speak in public very often. I'm more of the back of the house type girl. So I actually wrote out my speech. I'm going to try not to read too much of it verbatim. It's a little tough to follow these 2 acts, though. They were such beautiful accounts. I'm really so honored to have been asked to speak with you today. Becca told me a little bit about Given. I have to confess that's the first time I'd ever heard of this beautiful organization. And I looked into it a little bit further, and I just have to tell you, like, what a gift you all have that I'm so happy to be here to help you celebrate your kickoff event. And I really hope that you will attend and treasure this gift. I wish there had been something like this when I was your age. I think the church, there's so many things that the church is accused of doing today, one of which is, undervaluing women. And I think an organization like this really highlights how wonderful the Catholic Church thinks women are. And so, use this gift, and then when you've used it up, then go and share it with others, because this is wonderful. So as these lovely women mentioned, we were asked to talk about the gifts that we have, how we use those gifts, and, really kind of understanding the gifts, realizing the gifts that we actually have. So I'll start by telling you a little bit about me. My life, I would say, has kind of been a series of building blocks or moments that I think have sort of brought me here, maybe to you. I grew up Catholic, but not really Catholic. I mean, it was sort of, we went to church on Sundays, not the way that my current family practices Catholicism. But I think that was sort of needed in order to shine the light on what happened later in my life. So I'm going to tell you about that now. I'm the oldest of 3 girls. My parents are still married and very much in love. I grew up in a very comfortable lifestyle in Virginia Beach. We were members of a country club. We had a nanny. We had a pool in the backyard. It was a really great life. I met my husband in college at a toga party. Neither one of us were wearing toga outfits, but we did indeed meet at a toga party. Chris was not Catholic at the time that I met him, and I would say, barely Catholic, really Catholic because I'd been baptized, but not actually doing anything with it. We met, and the next morning I told my roommate that I had met the man I was going to marry the night before. I don't know why. I know why I felt that way. I thought he was very good looking and very charming, but I'd met a lot of men that were very good looking and very charming, but there was something I knew. I didn't know exactly what it was yet, but I knew that Chris was the one that I was supposed to be with. I think later you'll find out why. So Chris and I, just to sort of understand the station in life that I'm in now, we've been married for 16 and a half years. We have 7 children together, the last of which God had a wonderful surprise in store for us, our fraternal twins.
Wow.
So we thought we were going to have number 6 and fit into our cute little house in Burke and still drive our Sienna minivan. And God was like, no, we're going to change all of that. And I went to the ultrasound thinking I actually wasn't feeling very pregnant, and I thought we were going to get bad news. And it turns out we got double good news.
Wow.
And everything sort of changed from there. We moved to Manassas. We bought a much bigger home, and we had to upgrade to a 12-passenger van. So, like we became like that family, overnight almost. That's all it takes, apparently, is just 7 children. So, but I would say, all of these things that are present in my life now, but I really would say, in addition to obviously like the amazing Lord that we have, my relationship with my husband has been the linchpin for all of the things that I want to talk to you about. So when we were first married, I was always right, and I was very passionate about always being right. And so as we kind of went through our first year of marriage, that didn't work out so well, and we really clashed a lot. At the time, the war in Iraq had just begun, and I was very for the war in Iraq. I thought there were definitely weapons of mass destruction, and we needed to be in Iraq and taking care of that right away. My husband, on the other hand, did not think that we should be in the war in Iraq, and we really fought a lot about this in our first year of marriage. It wasn't the reason that our marriage wasn't working, but it was the manifestation of why our marriage wasn't working during the first year of marriage. I really couldn't believe that he didn't think like me that the war was right, and so we had this ridiculous clash that just lasted months and months and months. And there were other things we were clashing on too, but that's the one that I remember most. And the problem was not the war in Iraq. The problem was that we weren't actually listening to each other. We weren't humble enough to listen to each other. I would probably say I was even less humble than he was. But that's one of the great gifts that I've gotten from marriage, is the ability to say, you know what, I'm not right about that. Like, I'm actually very wrong about that. I'm not saying I was wrong about the war in Iraq, but we can talk about that later. But there have definitely been things that I've realized over the course of my marriage with Chris that I'm wrong about. And one of those things came a little bit later in our marriage that I think is the most defining moment in my life. So after a few years of marriage, we decided we were going to start a family. And we realized through a series of tests that it was going to take some Herculean efforts for me to get pregnant. I know that's a little bit odd, seeing as how I just told you I have 7 children, but it is kind of amazing what the Lord can do. So we were seeing a fertility doctor at the time who was definitely a secular fertility doctor. And she encouraged that we use IVF. And I didn't really know very much about IVF. I thought, that sounds good to me. If you think it's going to work, let's do it. Like, what's involved? And my husband, thank God, truly thank God, was he was in a PhD program at CUA under Dr. Grabowski. That's how we know these fine people. And he was learning all about theology of the body, essentially. And it was amazing that, like, at that moment that was happening, that we were experiencing this trial in our lives. And so when I said, yeah, IVF sounds great, Chris was like, no, we can't do IVF, and let me explain why. And of course, there was, a lot of back and forth, and I was like, that's so unfair. I can't believe the church wouldn't want us to have a baby, and but it was really because he had the wisdom of the church behind him, that he was able to really move me in a way that I know I never would have moved, because I still was not very Catholic. Like, I was not really going to Mass every Sunday. Chris was going to, I forgot to tell you, he converted to Catholicism before we got married. It's a little bit of, that was in here if I had read. Anyways, so he converted to Catholicism, then he's in this PhD program, and now we're facing this trial. And, but I really, even despite the fact that he had converted, I really hadn't kind of like come back. I hadn't made the conversion myself. So he's telling me all this, and I'm like, that's ridiculous. I just want to have a baby. And he's like, well, we can't do it that way. We could maybe look into other things, but I can't, I will not participate in that. And so he goes to bed this one night, and I had this like moment. I mean, it really was like God was speaking directly to me, maybe like for the first time that I had ever been listening. And I said, okay, Lord, I have never done anything your way. Like all growing up, I really didn't follow what you said. I really didn't care about what you said. But you know what? I'm going to take this very important moment and I'm going to do it your way. And I'm going to trust in you that it's all going to work out. And I was really kind of mean about it. Like, you owe me or something, you know? But I mean, I don't know. God listened to me. We worked it out somehow. And basically, we decided to go on a low dose of Clomid. We still used the same fertility people. So the third month and the final month that we had given ourselves, we get pregnant. And we were absolutely on cloud nine. We actually found out on Chris's birthday that we were pregnant. And we went to the doctor, the fertility doctor, several times. We did all these tests, all this stuff. They kept saying the baby is not going to make it. The pregnancy, it's not going to work out. It was awful. The roller coaster ride that we were on was just crazy. And we went in at 7 weeks, and we had an ultrasound, and there was just no movement. There was no heartbeat. There was nothing. So the doctor said, you need to go immediately and have a D&C. And I don't know what came over me, because I didn't believe, I was looking at the screen, and I believed that that child was dead. But I said, no, I'm not going to have a D&C. And the doctor got very upset. And then my husband said, how sure are you that this baby is dead? And the doctor said, I am 100% sure. And I said, well, I'm still not having a D&C. My body is made for this. I will handle this on my own. So we go home, we wait, and nothing happens. And then I started feeling really sick. I didn't know at the time. I was maybe feeling like pregnancy sick, but I was feeling really sick nonetheless. We go in to the doctor again. We have another ultrasound. We're like 8 weeks along now. And there is this baby with a heartbeat, like a gingerbread man doing a dance on the ultrasound screen. I couldn't believe it. No one in the room could believe it. It really was a miracle. It was amazing. And so we had a baby. We had Patrick. And then we had 6 more after that. And but none of that would have happened. I never would have been open to any of that. I would have just gone and had the D&C if all of the other things in my life hadn't sort of just unfolded the way that they did. So now I work at SBA, which is the other like really important, really important part in my life. But again, if I had been the other person, like kind of this, I wasn't anti-faith, but not interested in a relationship with God like I have now, I never would have been able to work at SBA. I never would have been able to climb the leadership ladder that I have. One of the really cool things about working at SBA is that the time I started out working from home for them, I worked from home for them for 6 years because I was having children, and it was really nice to work from home. And then my job grew to such a point where I couldn't really work from home anymore. I needed to be in the office full time. And that was really hard. But again, that like faith in God and trust that this was the right next step for our family allowed us to really make a very radical change. I mean, my husband is a stay-at-home dad, and he has a PhD. It's kind of a big deal. And we moved our whole family to Northern Virginia to serve this organization at a higher level. And I'm incredibly incredibly happy. I love SBA. I love what we do. I love what I get to do for them. I love that I have these very basic like accounting skills, but I'm able to put them to use for this like amazing organization and this amazing cause. And one of the other things that's really been a gift from them is that, like I was saying, that like approach to sort of where I am now is that I think in a secular position in just sort of like a for-profit business, as you climb the leadership ranks, you're taught, I think, to rely more on yourself, to believe that you can do it the best. And it's this very inward looking rise. At SBA, it's been very different. The approach for I would say our whole leadership team, even up to Marjorie, is a lot of times like probably someone else can even do it better than I can. And it's on me as a leader to empower that person to to do that thing. And so it's not this inward looking leadership approach. It's a very team approach to, it's the whole body of the organization that makes that organization run and be successful. And I'm so lucky to be so blessed really to be a part of that. So those are I would say the key points in my life that I think have gotten me here. And I would echo what both of them have said, just to really, you have to have your heart open to what the Lord is telling you. And you've heard our 3 very different stories, and the Lord is saying something special to you even right now as we're sitting here. And so just make sure you're always listening. That's my story.
Thank you.